Good afternoon and welcome back to Football League World TV. First show of the week coming up for you now with the AFL Weekend Review, where we're going to be looking back on the pick of the action from across the AFL on the weekend gone by. I'm your host, Alfie Burns, and I'm joined by my two colleagues, Ned and Adam. Ned, how are you?
Yeah, well, good, mate. Thanks. Another fantastic weekend of EFL action. All 3 days really seem to sort of live up to the billings. So lots to talk about today.
Yeah, tons to get through. Adam, how are you?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. It just goes to show you really how much EFL action there's been that the Middlesbrough-Sheffield United 2-2 didn't get onto this show, really. But yeah, plenty of EFL action.
Yeah, goals, big moments, big goals, everything going on this weekend. So loads to get through. As I said, we're streaming across Facebook, YouTube and Twitter this morning. So if you're joining us and want to get yourselves involved in the debate, please do. We'll look to get your comments up on the show. And if you were at an AFL game this weekend, get your comments in and let us know whereabouts you were. As we always do, we'll start things off with the Championship, and we're going to be looking at Sunderland 2, Queen's Park Rangers 2. The headline coming out of this game, Seny Dieng, the Queen's Park Rangers goalkeeper, with a 92nd minute header, a brilliant header, it's got to be said, to equalise for QPR really late on there. A really late comeback from Michael Beale's side. Ned, this goal from Dieng, just in isolation, it's a moment that we're never, ever going to forget about in the EFL, isn't it?
Oh, it's fantastic. I think it shocked quite a lot of people this early on in the season to see a keeper thrown forward, but I think it's a reflection of the sort of no-nonsense approach that Mick Beale is taking at QPR, you know, willing to sort of risk it all to get that result and getting the rewards, really. I think a phenomenal header, as you say, in terms of the technique or the quality from Dieng. So it was a hang in the air and glance it, one that I'm sure Lyndon Dykes and many other strikers in the Championship would be proud of. I mean, no surprise, I think, as well, that it's Ilias Chair coming up with the cross in and the free kick beforehand. That moment of quality felt they didn't have it all their way. Obviously, QPR trailed until late on, but he's showing more and more. We saw it last season when Chris Willock was injured, and obviously this week as well without Willock. He's showing more and more that he's that player now to sort of shoulder the responsibility for QPR and come up big in big moments, and he certainly did here. I mean, unfortunate, frustrating for Sunderland, I'm sure, but a moment that I think neutrals across the EFL certainly enjoyed.
Yeah, absolutely. Adam, what were your thoughts on the goalkeeper getting the equaliser in the 92nd minute?
No, it's remarkable, really. The last time it happened, it was actually for Reading in like 2011. I think it was in the Championship, Adam Federici. So, yeah, it brought back kind of good memories seeing Dieng kind of get himself on the score sheet. And the actual goal, I'm not sure if Patterson could perhaps do a little bit better, perhaps in the lead up. I mean, in terms of, just being perhaps a bit more commanding of his area. I mean, yeah, I think that was the one negative that I'd have for Sunderland in terms of that. But in terms of the goal, yeah, it was a fantastic moment really for Dieng, and credit to Mick Beale for taking that decision to stick him up there, because it's just won them a point. And considering that they were 2-0 down so late on, I think it's a fantastic result for them. But in terms of Sunderland, it's really disappointing because there were so many positives. Alex Pritchard was again superb. I mentioned him last weekend, but he just in the middle of everything really. Ellis Sims could have had more than one, and just obviously they were perhaps lucky to concede lucky not to concede kind of more than two, because there was quite a few chances for QPR, and that was kind of the main positive for them was the fact that they had loads of chances. But yeah, there was plenty of chances going on for both sides, and both sides could have scored more. But I don't think Sunderland should get too despondent with this result, because there were plenty of positives for them.
Yeah, a little bit of a harsh lesson for Sunderland, leading 2-0 on 86 minutes. I'm sure they'll be viewing that as 2 points dropped, but still a really good start to the season for Alex Neil's side. One player that might be feeling slightly unfortunate to be in the shadow of Dieng's goal this weekend is Brad Potts at Preston. An absolute wonder goal in Preston's 1-0 win at Luton Town. It was interesting that I was at the Huddersfield Preston game in the League Cup on Tuesday night, and Potts had tried similar and hit the woodwork. So he's definitely a case of practice makes perfect, isn't it, Ned?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we've been so lucky already. On Monday we had that Ismail Assar sort of long range chip from inside his own half, and we've got another goal of the season contender here. I mean, a phenomenal finish from Potts. One of those that really just sort of gets better and better every time you watch it, and one that you're almost, you're jealous that you haven't pulled off yourself. One I'm sure that people up and down the country are going to be trying in five-a-side and the like, particularly up in the northwest. But I think actually we have to talk about Robbie Brady's delivery, a phenomenal ball in, and he settled really well at Preston. He delivered a ball of absolute quality as well. I think a bit earlier on, a really dangerous one that sort of probed as well. It wasn't converted, that one, but I think just shows you, what you can benefit from having a player of Brady's quality and someone like Potts, who's as you said, he got in that position previously. He's willing to sort of break his neck to get in there and at the back post, and that really paid dividends for them. I think, lots to be positive about for Preston. An impressive start. They've made themselves really difficult to beat, and I think on Saturday they really got their rewards for that. If the likes of Emil Rees, Troy Parrott can start scoring regularly, I think really there's no reason why that they can't be a team that we see as sort of contenders for perhaps that sixth or fifth, that the final two playoff spots, which always do seem to be up for grabs. Last season a bit of a transition, but now things really clicking under Ryan Lowe, and lots to be positive about for Preston. And I'm sure Ben Wignall and amongst other Preston fans will be rewatching that goal hundreds of times today.
Absolutely. There's something so pleasing about watching wing-back to wing-back goal action. But at the other end of the pitch with Preston, they haven't conceded a goal yet in the Championship, Adam. And Ned sort of touched on it there. Do you see them as a side that under Ryan Lowe can really kick on and challenge for the playoffs this season?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you could tell that they haven't conceded a goal this season, just judging by their performance at Kenilworth Road. I thought they were absolutely solid. I thought, obviously, losing Daniel Egerson, I thought was a massive blow for them, but they've got in Freddie Woodman. It was a commanding performance. I think that was the one thing that I think the one word I think that I'd use to describe their performance was commanding. They were just solid, even with some of the highlights, that there was blocked shots and everything really, and that just goes to kind of sum up their whole performance, because they were just superb really defensively. And I completely agree with Ned and you that I think that they can be playoff contenders, definitely, as Ned said, that the kind of final two spots, they've definitely got enough going forward as well. Troy Parrott was such a force at MK Dons last season, and I think he can get in amongst the goals. Obviously, Emil Rees, I think, had a difficult first season at Deepdale, but kind of really turned things around, and I can't see him looking back now. So there's some promising signs there. Obviously, the goals of fantastic quality as well, and as Ned mentioned there, Robbie Brady, who had quite a difficult season last season at Bournemouth, but has really kind of adapted to life well, really, in Lancashire, and I think that he'll have a very good season as well. So yeah, it's some very, very positive signs. But for me, the one big thing for me was the defensive performance. I thought that was nothing short of magnificent.
Preston's local rivals are going well as well in Blackburn Rovers. They beat West Brom 2-1 on Sunday. It goes from Ben Brereton Diaz and Sam Gallagher, getting them the win over Steve Bruce's side. It's been the perfect start for Blackburn. 9 points from 9. Was this their best result yet, Ned?
I think you've got to put it down as that. The 3-0 against Swansea City was hugely impressive, not least because you could really see what the game plan was, and they went there and they sort of executed it perfectly. But this one against a team in West Brom that I think a lot of people were tipping to sort of be challenging right at the top of the table this year. I think this is a huge result for them. 100% record maintained. They're excellent. And again, I think what really impressed me is a sort of see that this team is slightly egoless in that they really understand what their limitations are, and they're not trying to sort of outplay what they are, that they're happy to sort of concede the majority of possession as they did in this game and in previous games. And they really trust that they've got the sort of clinicalness up front to make the most of that. And that's what they've done. They've rode their luck a little bit at times with sides sort of not making the most of opportunities, but they deserve to be there at the top of the table, and there's no reason that they can't go and win that next game at Reading. Sorry, Adam, and then go to Bramall Lane full of confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a brilliant start for Blackburn. West Brom manager Steve Bruce said after this game that he felt that his side had done enough to win the game. Adam, is that something that you agree with?
Yeah, I think they did. I think they did decide something from the game. Obviously, I think in the end, I think he said something very similar in his post-match press conference as well, Steve Bruce, that the forwards were the difference in the end. It was a clinical performance, as Ned said, from Blackburn. Two fantastic finishes, and it just goes to show you really kind of what a bit of quality can get you in terms of how much of a difference it can make in terms of having Burton, Diaz, and Gallagher there. Obviously, should have gone ahead, I think, through Grady Diangana. A fantastic cross from Jeb Wallace. He's going to put in that sort of cross, and I trust him to do that throughout the season. But yeah, Diangana should have scored there. I know that he was perhaps put off a little bit, but I think he still should have made the very most of that. That was kind of a key moment in the game, really. And you feel like, just for this game anyway, that last season's problems are coming back to haunt them, really. Just there, how kind of for them being poor in front of goal and not very clinical. I think the one kind of positive for them was Jeb Wallace. I think he was a threat. Obviously, that cross was absolutely superb, and I think as well he was unlucky not to score himself. So there are some promising signs, I think, for Steve Bruce. It's not kind of time to hit the panic button yet, definitely not. But you can tell, I think, that they're missing their forwards, and I think it'd be a good idea for them to get in another striker. Even regardless of Daryl Dike's injury, I thought getting in a striker was essential, really, and it's even more important now. So yeah, as I said, no need to kind of panic for them, but they've got to be more clinical in front of goal and show a little bit more quality. But yeah, no need to panic.
Whatever kind of mood you're in at this moment in time, Adam, I'm gonna probably ruin your afternoon. We're going to talk about Reading's 4-0 defeat at Rotherham, 4 goals in the first half, and a nightmare for Joe Lumley in the Reading goal. This was a really tough afternoon for Paul Ince's side.
Yeah, I mean, I was very angry on social media after the game. It wasn't the defeat for me. I know this is going to be a very tough season for us, but I think just the manner of the defeat, really, it's becoming a little bit of a trend under Paul Ince. Obviously, conceding 4 at Blackpool last season, conceding 4 at Forest, conceding 4 at home to Swansea, conceding 3 away at Hull City. So yeah, for me, it was the manner of the performance and going 4-0 down, against perhaps a relegation rival, before half time was a massive shock, and yeah, I think that kind of played into the anger, really. But yeah, I think Rotherham just exploited the weaknesses. I think, to be honest with you, I've got to give them credit as well, because they played the ball into the channels well. They played the ball in behind us quite well as well, and kind of just exploited us that way, and completely kind of exploited all of our weaknesses. There were players that weren't on it. There were some players that put in an okay performance, but I think the likes of Joe Lumley, obviously he won't be satisfied with his performance at all. I think Tom McIntyre as well. I think the whole defence actually needs to give Joe Lumley a bit more protection. I don't think it's completely on the goalkeeper. Obviously he had an absolute nightmare. That goes without saying, really, looking at obviously the highlights, just that, but watching the whole game as well, and just some of the mistakes from him, didn't come for the second goal, and then came flying out of his goal, on numerous occasions after that. So yeah, he was mentally shot, I think, at half time, and yeah, it was not great, going forward in terms of his confidence. I think in terms of our attack as well, I think we weren't just defensively poor. I think going forward, we didn't have enough. Obviously, Lucas Zhao and Yaku Mate are out at the moment, and that's a blow. But even without them, even considering that and taking that into account, I just don't think we showed enough going forward. And no, I don't think we deserve to score, really, at the moment. So just kind of overall, it was a bit of it was just a net performance, really. I think the system's right. I think some of the players perhaps weren't good enough on the day. But yeah, I think more signings are needed, and we need our injured players back. But whether it's more than that, I'm not sure kind of yet, based off one performance. But it was definitely poor, and there are things that need to be worked on before Wednesday. Otherwise, Blackburn are going to give us a hammering.
As Adam sort of touched on there, Ned, you've got to give credit to Rotherham here. Due to their postponement at Coventry, they've only played twice, but they've got 4 points on the board, which I kind of feel starting strongly is quite important for Paul Warne this season if he's going to keep Rotherham in the division. They've obviously bounced between the Championship and League One recently.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can we kind of expect them to have a lean period at some point, and I think these early getting the points on the board early on and having, as I said, points to fall back on is really, really important. It's been a hugely encouraging start. I think they will have been really frustrated by the Coventry situation, halting their momentum a bit, feeling a little bit like they're behind the other teams in the league. But actually what they've done is taken 4 points from 2 games, and that's hugely impressive. I think actually, while we can talk a lot about Reading's defensive fragility in the game and the Joe Lumley situation, I don't blame him. I don't know how Reading can't have watched Joe Lumley in recent years in the Championship and realised that this is a goalkeeper that has consistently shown that he's got these sort of mistakes in him. So I almost don't put that on his door. It's really the club's fault. But from a Rotherham perspective, hugely encouraging to see them score 4 goals in the Championship, given Michael Smith's departure in the summer. Ogbene, I think it's 2-2 now through the centre for him. He looks like he could be in line for a massive season for them, and just lots of reason to be cheerful. No surprise for me that Dan Balaza is pulling the strings in this one as well. I think 3 assists for him this season now, and yeah, keeping hold of him is going to be key. But I think if you'd have offered any Rotherham fan, 3 points from the first 2 games, they would have taken it, would have shaken your hand off. So to be unbeaten, 4 points from 2 games, and to get a big result like this against, as Adam I think correctly said, someone that's likely to be battling alongside them for survival, absolutely massive.
We'll start with a goal first as we begin our League One analysis. Accrington for Burton Albion. For Accrington, striking twice after 90 minutes to seal a point in this game. Adam, it was absolute chaos at Accrington. What did you make of the game?
Yeah, it's a real shame for Burton because they looked a real threat early, kind of early on. I think Gassan Hatme, I thought, was fantastic, kind of a real kind of presence in there, obviously winning the penalty. And then, it seemed like they were energised by having 11 men. Obviously, last time out, they were quite unlucky to have 10 men kind of after a minute, really. So it did feel like they were kind of energised, really, by that kind of, having that 11 men kind of there. I think 3-1 was the turning point for me. There was a lot of ball watching. I thought that the first Accrington goal was completely avoidable from their point of view. I kind of felt a little bit sorry for them in terms of the second Accrington goal, because I thought it was just a fantastic chip, really, from McConville. I thought it was a really clinical finish, and one really that kind of that's deserving, really, of a comeback. So I kind of feel sorry for them in terms of 1 or 2 of the goals, but even the third goal, I thought for them was obviously the defender not getting goal side. I thought was a little bit sloppy, really, kind of defensively. So yeah, that's the one real concern for them is their defence at the moment for Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, because they haven't had a fantastic start to the season going back. But in terms of Accrington, I think they'll take the point, considering I think going into this match they would have wanted all 3 points, especially considering Burton's fortunes in the early stages of the season. But to come back in the manner that they did was superb, really, and it leaves kind of Burton with a lot to kind of worry about. They need to tighten up their defence, very shortly. Otherwise, they're going to find themselves in quite a lot of trouble.
Let's just stick with Burton for now, then. On an afternoon where you seem to be heading into injury time with 3 points in the bag, Ned, to sort of throw 2 of them away, it's really disappointing, isn't it? And it just continues what's been a sluggish start to the season.
Yeah, it's a real concern, really. This, I think, heading into the game, you offer Burton a draw, they'd probably take it. But the way it's played out, this feels a lot more like a defeat for them. As Adam said, I thought offensively that they looked really impressive, and Davis Taylor-Dunn bagging a hat-trick, sort of opening his account for the club. He was so important for Oldham last season, and that's a positive. But yeah, you've got to be concerned about the defence. I mean, the static defending for 3 of these 4 goals. As Adam says, the lob is, you just got to put down that to a bit of quality. But the other 3 goals I felt was so avoidable, and just, I think that's now 13 goals in 4 games for them this season. That's unsustainable. You keep conceding that many goals, you're going to get relegated. That's the pure and sort of simple of it. And yeah, a really frustrating one for Burton. Concern for them, given it looked like that they were producing this fantastic response to the disappointment at Bristol Rovers last weekend, and then to have that sort of scratched off and to leave Accrington with a draw, really, really frustrating. But I guess from a neutral's perspective, you can't enjoy an 8-goal thriller full of sort of some crazy football, then I'm not sure the EFL's for you.
Yeah, moving to the top of the division then, Ipswich Town. 3-0 winners against MK Dons, a result that's particularly pleasing to see because our panel on the preview show last week all predicted Ipswich win, so good to see those coming in, and it's sent Kieran McKenna's side to the top of the division. Ned, I'll come to you with this question. After years of sort of mediocrity in League One, is this Ipswich finally getting their act together?
It certainly looks that way. I mean, I think Ipswich under Kieran McKenna last season, they passed the eye test, didn't they? The performances were clearly more impressive, but the results weren't there to back them up, and that's why I think there was a lot of positivity heading into the summer and this season, despite the fact McKenna came in and didn't move them anywhere from 10th, basically. I think now they're getting the results to go along with those improved performances, and this is a big one. MK Dons perhaps still not at their best, but they were dangerous at points, and I think we saw Wednesday only a narrow defeat against them last weekend. So if that's sort of litmus test for Ipswich, to be then beating them 3-0, hugely impressive and rightfully sort of top of the table, that they had to dig in at times. But I think their quality in the final third shone through. That's got to be really, really pleasing. I think you look at someone like Marcus Harness that's been added to provide that extra goal threat, which perhaps they were lacking in times last season when they weren't able to kill games off. Today, that they put this result really beyond doubt, and that's got to be hugely impressive. And I know MK Dons are sort of struggling at the moment, but I do still see them as one of the better sides in the division. So this is a statement victory really for the Tractor boys.
Yeah, let's just move over to MK then. They've had a tough summer. They've lost some big personnel. They've had a tough start to the season. Now, you've just mentioned they've played Sheffield Wednesday and Ipswich Town, two absolute powerhouses in the division. But I think 3 defeats on the bounce, and MK sitting bottom of the table, given how close they came to automatic promotion last season. Adam, this is a little bit of a hangover now.
Yeah, it does seem that way. I mean, the Matt Dennis miss at 1-0, I think, was key for them in this game. I think they've got to take those type of chances at Portman Road. You're not going to get that many. So for him to miss that chance was key, really. Obviously, they have the worst combination, I think, at the moment. A team that wants to pass out from the back, you can clearly see that, but kind of don't have the best confidence at the moment, and then therefore are not kind of executing it correctly, and that kind of cost them in the end. There was quite a few unforced errors from them, and that will kind of lower their confidence even more. So, that's one big downside for them. But again, I don't think this is the time to hit the panic button. I think, obviously facing Accrington next, I think that they can definitely win that one, especially against a side that shipped 4 against kind of Burton. I think that they can definitely kind of win that game. So, I kind of admire them in a way for sticking to their principles of passing out from the back, but it's all about the execution, and they need to execute it a lot better if they are going to kind of come out on top on most games, because with that performance, with some of the unforced errors, teams will punish them definitely. But there's also a part of me that's just very impressed with Ipswich, to be honest with you. Using the channels very well, overlapping kind of centre backs as well. I think that the back three kind of suits them as well. Just in Donashian, I thought was a fantastic that game. I thought he was without doubt man of the match, kind of playing a big part in 2 of the goals. And I think the only negative for them is the fact that they didn't score more. Obviously, they could have conceded, but in the end, this is a really solid performance from them, and they'll gain a lot of confidence from that. But in terms of MK, again, don't push the panic button yet, but they need to start getting points on the board sooner rather than later.
Next up, we're going to be focusing on some of the late drama down in League 2. We'll start with AFC Wimbledon 2, Doncaster Rovers 2. Doncaster striking twice in 9 minutes late on to turn this game around after Wimbledon were leading 2-0. We'll start with Wimbledon. I know that they got a win earlier in the season, Ned, but it feels like they can't quite get back into the habit of winning games of football, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that long dry spell is going to be something that takes a little while to sort of shake off the sort of the mental impact of that, and I think we certainly saw that today. Johnny Jackson's got to be furious and frustrated with his side's inability to protect a lead here, because I thought Wimbledon, I thought they played some really some fantastic stuff going forward. I thought it was a game of real quality. Actually, I mean, the Tommy Rowe strike is an absolute scorcher, but you know, that's got to be clear that there's 2 or 3 chances before the ball even comes out to Rowe for them to get a clearance in, and there's just, I don't know, there didn't seem to be the urgency that, you know, that to really get out there, and then once that goal goes in, it's a completely different game, and they just have to do better really from the corner. Again, it's for me, it's sort of one that can be dealt with fairly simply. They don't do it, and yeah, I think things still look positive. Unbeaten in League Two, 5 points from 3 games. No, by no means a bad start, given, you know, new manager, they dropped down and everything like that. But yeah, if they keep inviting teams back into games as they did here, then they're going to find things really difficult.
Let's just move over to Doncaster then. A quick word on them, Adam. 2 goals down, late comeback, says a lot about their character.
Definitely, yeah, but I kind of agree with Ned in the fact that there wasn't that much going forward until the consolation. I think that, you know, Tommy Rowe, fantastic strike, and I think that kind of sparked them into action, really. So I think he was absolutely key, really, in getting them back into the match. Obviously, that goes without saying, but yeah, I mean, after that, they showed great spirit. Obviously, you know, right at the death, kind of getting their goal, and then, you know, they could have even won it, I think, after that. So, you know, there are promising signs. I think, you know, against another recently relegated side, I think that they'll 100%, you know, take a draw, especially in the circumstances as well. And then they aren't in the worst position in the world, actually, and neither are Wimbledon. So, you know, obviously both sides might be a little bit frustrated with this one. I think Doncaster might be the happier. But, you know, I don't think this is kind of a disastrous result, really, for either side. I do feel sorry for Wimbledon a little bit, because I think that, you know, as Ned said, some of the stuff that they played going forward was actually very good. But yeah, I think the kind of the lack of defending, I think, for the first goal for the consolation for 2-1, I think was very poor. You know, they could, as Ned said, I think they could definitely clear that one. Obviously, it was a top quality strike, really, and very satisfying to watch. But you know, just in terms of the build up, they could have done a lot better with that one. So perhaps you could say they're kind of their own worst enemies, kind of Wimbledon. But you know, Doncaster had to show the spirit to come back after 2-1, because it was still reasonably late on. So yeah, I thought they did. You know, Doncaster did fantastically well to get themselves back into it. But yeah, they need to kind of take this momentum now into the next game. Otherwise, it won't count for very much.
Even later drama in Walsall's meeting with Stevenage, 1-1, with Danny Rose equalising for Stevenage in the 100th minute. Footage, I don't know if everybody will have seen it, of Steve Evans on social media. Absolutely loving it. We know all about Steve Evans in the EFL, Ned. Kind of his side epitomising what he is.
Yeah, this is Steve Evans doing what Steve Evans does best, isn't it? I mean, yeah, he's come in and he's instilled confidence into this sort of new squad of players that he's put together over the summer. They're playing that sort of unapologetic style of you know, happy to lean on some direct football, and it's working out for them. I mean, it's the goal itself is a bit of a mess, but in the 100th minute, you certainly take anything you can get. And Steve Evans has never been someone too interested in you know, scoring perfect goals and playing wonderful expansive football. They've not always been pretty this season, Stevenage, but I mean, 7 points, 3 games in League Two, and a win over Reading in a Carabao Cup. He can barely have dreamed of a better start to the season. 2 teams that, for me, from early form, suggest they should be there or thereabouts in the 4th tier this season. No surprise, given the 2 managers that are in charge of their respective clubs. But yeah, as you say, it was this was really a trademark Steve Evans, sort of the late goal, the winner. Not the winner, rather the equaliser, and then Evans on the sideline celebrating. It was classic stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Apologies to Steve Evans if he's tuning in there. I think that our little image of him cut his head off. So sorry about that, Steve. Another side that deserves massive credit and a little shout out at the end of the show is Leyton Orient. They beat Mansfield on Saturday, and they are the only team in League Two to take 9 points from 9, so they're having an excellent season, so well done to them. All right, that concludes our look through the 3 divisions. There's still more reviewing to be done though today on Football League World TV, where at 2:30 we'll be looking at 2 winners and 2 losers from across the EFL this weekend. Sam Rourke and Marcus Ali on that show, so it should be a brilliant show. So please do make sure you tune in for that. But between now and then, take care and we'll see you again soon.